I want to thank Regina very much for her friendship and her vision and her leadership with this organization. It makes a huge difference. And, you know, Regina and I were college roommates, so I won't tell you all the real stories that are yet to be told about Regina and I. However, she's a wonderful person of great passion, and I'm very grateful that she's my friend. I also want to thank Kelly Conlon. You have an extraordinary president in Kelly. She is a woman of unbelievable passion, vision, integrity, fight. She is the best there possibly is. And a round of applause for Kelly. I also want to recognize the many elected leaders here who are also sharing the good fight that we are all here to talk about today. State Senator Eric Schneiderman, District Attorney Rice, Speaker Quinn. Thank you all for your public service. I appreciate it very much. The mayor is not here, but I wanted to recognize him specifically. He's talking about men's room meetings. Well, I'll tell you about a ladies' room meeting. So I'm in the state capitol in the Senate women's restroom, and in walks Sonia Sotomayor. And this is before her nomination when she was coming to do her interviews. And I said, "Oh, Judge Mayor, Sotomayor, it's a great honor and privilege to meet you." And she says, "Oh, Kirsten, it's a great privilege to meet you." And we had talked a lot about each other. We'd talked on the phone, but we had never met. And she said, "You know, these are the days when the power meetings are actually going to start happening in the women's room." And so to Mr. Mayor, we have them in the ladies' room too. I also want to recognize Tina Brown, who's here. Where's Tina sitting? I want to thank her. Now, she is not only an opinion maker, but she is someone who is extraordinarily well regarded in the entire industry of ideas. She is somebody, if you want to know what people are going to be thinking tomorrow, you read Tina's blog and columns today, because she is the person who has her hands on the pulse of this city and this state and this country. So thank you, Tina, for your leadership and your vision, and thank you for supporting NARAL New York. What I'd like to do today is talk a little bit about the work we have to do. And I want to thank you all for being here at this luncheon. It is so important that the women and men in this room have committed to women's rights. We are not at a place where we should be. You know, we have been fighting these battles for years. Over 40 years ago, it used to be a felony in this state to have an abortion. So we've been fighting these battles for a very long time. But we are not where we should be. And if there was no greater example of that is the debates that happened during health care reform. Now, we all watched what happened when there was an amendment in the House called the Stupak Amendment, one of the most divisive, egregious amendments and violation of women's constitutional rights that I could have ever imagined coming out of the U.S. Congress. And so one of my jobs in the U.S. Senate was to make sure that amendment was not replicated in the Senate bill. And I will tell you, it was a fight. It was nothing that was foregone. It was nothing that was certain to be. But I fought with another 5 senators, and we made it clear behind the scenes that we would not vote for the health care reform bill if the Stupak Amendment was in that bill. Now, I know for many of us, we still fear there's much more work to be done. To be told that the status quo is where this debate's going to end is not sufficient for us. It is very important that women all across America, whether you are a woman of means or whether you are not, that you have access to safe reproductive health care. It is very important that all women in America have access to abortion services, because this is something that's part of women's health. And that is the debate, and that is the fight we have to continue to fight. And being in this room today means that you care. It means that you're willing to invest in an organization like NARAL New York that puts women's rights, our constitutional rights, and equality at the forefront of our mission and our goals. We cannot do this alone. It's not just a matter of one senator or one member of Congress or having only 17% women in the U.S. Congress. It's much more than that, because to get to a place where we could have had something like the Stupak Amendment possibly be part of this bill means that women's voices are not being heard in America. I cannot overstate this. You do not understand how close we were to our constitutional rights being forever abrogated in a health care bill. So I have to say, we must work harder. And I know that Kelly is going to be providing the leadership and the vision to do this, because women's rights are being undermined across the board. It's not just in the choice debate. Another issue that I care a lot about is the policy in the U.S. military called Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Now, let me tell you a bit about it. If you don't know, and it's a women's issue. You know, women make up 17% of the military, but do you know that we made up a third of all dismissals from the U.S. military under the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy? It was routinely a very easy way to get rid of women. You would out her. So when I started looking at this policy, you know, I found out that not only did we lost 16,000 personnel under this policy, but we also lost 10% of our foreign language speakers, particularly in Farsi and Arabic. We lost more than 800 in mission-critical areas where we couldn't replace these folks. And the most powerful testimony that I heard about the whole thing is when I talked to a soldier who said, Kirsten, I'm just tired of lying. I'm tired of lying about who I love, what's most important to me, and who I am. And when Admiral Mullen, in the testimony that I was able to secure to have a hearing on this issue, when he said it goes to the fundamental integrity not only of our men and women who serve, but to the integrity of the entire armed services, we are beginning to have progress on this issue. We are at a place where we can finally have a vote to get rid of this fundamentally discriminatory and egregious policy that is, frankly, un-American. We also have so much work to be done across the board for women's rights, even simple things. You know, we had an early vote in this Senate on the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act, and basically it says that if you're not paid the same amount as a male colleague doing the exact same work, you have a right of action. You can actually file a lawsuit. And they, you know, a lot of people will summarize it that say, we fought for equal pay. Well, we haven't achieved equal pay. Now we can just sue about it. But the reality is that for every dollar a woman earns, for every dollar a man earns, a woman earns 78 cents. And if you're a woman of color, if you're a Latina, you earn 53 cents. If you're African American, you earn 62 cents. So we have a long way to go in terms of earning and making sure that we have equality in this country today. So I just want to thank you, and I want to encourage you that your activism matters. I grew up in a household where I had a grandmother who inspired me to public life. She had a very novel idea as a 20-year-old woman who never went to college, who was a secretary in our state legislature, that women's voices mattered. And to be able to be heard, what she did was she organized women. She got women just like yourselves to care about politics, to care about grassroots advocacy, to join campaigns, to run for office, and to be part of our political fabric. And so I grew up literally working on somebody's campaign every fall with my grandmother, stuffing envelopes, going door to door, doing phone banking. But the fundamental life lesson I learned is that our voices count. What we do with our time matters. What we do with our advocacy matters. And I'm telling you, I couldn't be more grateful for the time and effort and the finances you are giving to this organization. Because when we do not collectively stand up and fight with one voice, until then we will not be heard, and we will not be able to win the battles that we must be waging every single day for equality in this country. Thank you so much.